When a child struggles to read, one of the first questions parents ask is this dyslexia? And it feels like the answer should completely change what happens next. Like there's a difference between a struggling reader and a dyslexic reader. But some major reading researchers are now arguing that dyslexia may not actually be a completely separate category at all. Instead, reading difficulties may exist more on a spectrum. And here's the surprising part. Even researchers who disagree about the label still largely agree on the intervention. So if the support is mostly the same, how much does the distinction actually matter? I've worked with struggling readers for a long time, and this is one of the most emotional conversations families have. Because for many parents, hearing the word dyslexia brings relief. It explains why reading has been so hard. But at the same time, researchers have become increasingly divided over whether dyslexia is truly distinct from other reading difficulties. Traditionally, dyslexia has been described as a neurological learning disability that affects reading accurately and fluently. Schools built screening systems around it, states passed dyslexia laws, public awareness exploded. But researchers still disagree on something fundamental. Can we reliably separate dyslexic readers from other struggling readers scientifically? Some researchers now argue that reading difficulties exist more along a continuum, but the underlying mechanism may overlap far more than we once thought. And honestly, this debate becomes controversial quickly because labels can help families access support, but they can also create situations where equally struggling children receive very different services depending on diagnosis. But underneath all the disagreement, something interesting happens. The intervention itself barely changes. Whether researchers strongly support the dyslexia label or criticize it, both sides largely agree on what helps struggling readers. Explicit phonics instruction, structured literacy, decoding practice, sound letter connections, and systematic intervention. And I think that's the part that often gets lost online, because the public debate sounds enormous, but the actual instructional recommendations overlap a lot. And honestly, this is why reading conversations feel so overwhelming for families right now. You have diagnosis, legislation, advocacy groups, and scientific disagreements all happening at once. But in the middle of all of it, kids still need effective instruction. Now, to be clear, none of this means dyslexia is fake. The debate is really about classification. Is dyslexia a distinct neurological subtype or one point along a broader range of reading difficulty? And depending on which researcher you ask, you'll get different answers. But what's becoming harder to deny is this. Struggling readers tend to benefit from the same evidence-based support regardless of the label they carry, which means the bigger danger may not be under-identifying dyslexia specifically, but under-supporting struggling readers generally. So the next time you hear someone talk about dyslexic readers versus struggling readers, the line between those groups may be far blurrier than most people realize. But one thing remains remarkably consistent. Children who struggle with reading need direct, structured, explicit instruction. And whether we call that child dyslexic or simply a struggling reader, the goal is still the same: helping them learn to read successfully.